Welcome back to the deep dive. We are thrilled to have you here with us today.
Yeah, really excited for this one. It's a bit different.
It is. Usually when you join us for one of these, we are standing at the base of this just massive mountain of information.
Right. Towering stacks of research papers.
Exactly. Thick historical biographies, complex data sets, and our job is typically to act as your guides, extracting the most valuable nuggets of knowledge to give you a great shortcut to being well informed.
Hmm.
Today, however, the source material you shared with us is incredibly sparse.
Sparse is an understatement.
Yeah, we are looking at a single, extremely brief Wikipedia article.
Just a few lines, really.
Right, and not just any Wikipedia article, but one that is specifically categorized as a stub.
Which is basically Wikipedia's way of saying, hey, this thing exists, but we have virtually nothing else to say about it.
Exactly, it's a placeholder. And the subject in question today is this tiny creature known as the Jobi tree frog, or scientifically, Latoria obtusirostris. And this deep dive is essentially a mystery about the very limits of human knowledge. We're exploring what happens when our desire to categorize the world runs headfirst into the vast, undocumented reality of nature.
And the challenge you set for us today is a really compelling one. Because we spend so much time in the information age feeling, I don't know, kind of overwhelmed by data.
Oh, constantly.
Right. We operate under this assumption that every square inch of the planet and every creature on it
Yeah.
has been endlessly documented.
Sequenced, filmed in high definition for nature documentaries.
Exactly. But the Jobi tree frog stands as this quiet rebellion against the idea that we have the entire planet mapped out. We are basically looking at an empty page here.
Yeah.
And the task is to extract the profound meaning hidden within the very few facts we do possess.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because even though the text is sparse, there's a very specific, rigid structure to how this frog is presented in our source.
The taxonomy.
Right. The article provides the frog's scientific lineage, and the granularity is striking. I mean, it reads like a set of biological nesting dolls.
Mm-hmm.
We start with kingdom Animalia.
The biggest doll.
Right. Down through phylum Chordata,
Right.
class Amphibia, order Anura, into the family Hylidae.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we reach the genus, listed as Latoria, and finally, a subfamily called Peladradinae.
It is a remarkably precise address in the tree of life.
Yeah, for a creature we seemingly know nothing about.
Well, and that level of classification requires a highly specific initial observation. Someone, at some point, had to look closely enough at a physical specimen of this animal to evaluate its morphology.
Right, to actually place it accurately into all of those taxonomic boxes.
Exactly. And the source material gives us a critical detail about exactly when that initial observation happened.
Yeah, it does.
The binomial name, Latoria obtusirostris, is listed right next to the name Meyer, followed by a date,
1875.
1875.
The sheer gap between that date and our current era completely changes how we have to view this Wikipedia stub.
It really does.
I mean, we are talking about the Victorian era. It forces you to think about the physical reality of how this frog was cataloged. This wasn't a digital upload. This was an era of naturalists traveling by ship.
Preserving specimens in glass jars.
Yes, the smell of formaldehyde, entering them into the official record of human knowledge through hand-drawn sketches and manual morphological measurements.
And that historical context is just vital here. Meyer, and the source doesn't even elaborate on who Meyer was, by the way.
Right, just Meyer.
Meyer examined this frog, recognized its distinct physical characteristics, perhaps the shape of its snout, given the Latin obtusirostris,
Oh, interesting, right.
and formally described it over a century and a half ago. It has been a known entity on this planet, sitting in our scientific ledgers for 150 years.
Yeah.
Yet the biological description from 1875 appears to be where our understanding of the animal both began and abruptly ended.
Which brings us to the geography of where this specimen actually originated. The source explicitly states that the Jobi tree frog is endemic to West Papua, Indonesia.
And the word endemic is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
It really is.
Because in a biological context, it doesn't just indicate origin, it dictates absolute restriction.
Right, it lives only there.
Exactly. The species lives only in that specific geographic region and literally nowhere else on Earth. And West Papua is renowned for its incredibly rugged, remote terrain.
Yeah, we are talking about dense, largely impenetrable rainforests,
Steep mountainous regions.
highly isolated microhabitats. The topography of New Guinea as a whole enforces that kind of strict endemism.
Hmm.
You have these massive ridges and deep valleys that act as natural walls, just isolating species for millennia.
Right.
So the Jobi tree frog's geographical exclusivity provides this massive logistical clue as to why the scientific record has been stalled since 1875.
It's just too hard to get to.
Exactly. Conducting a comprehensive biological survey in the remote forests of West Papua is a monumental undertaking. It is not an environment where researchers can just easily set up long-term observation camps to study the daily habits of a highly elusive amphibian.
No, absolutely not. The isolation acts as a barrier to both the frog's physical expansion and our scientific comprehension of it.
Right.
When an animal exists only in one highly remote, heavily forested location, locating a stable population, let alone observing its life cycle, becomes a search for a needle in a continent-sized haystack.
And that logistical reality perfectly sets up the most striking detail in the entire source document.
Yeah, this is the part that really got me.
According to the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, the Jobi tree frog's conservation status is listed as data deficient. The source notes this was assessed under IUCN version 3.1 by the IUCN SSC Amphibian Specialist Group, and the year of this assessment was 2020.
2020.
Now let me play devil's advocate for just a second here.
Sure.
When you see a label like data deficient attached to a creature discovered back in 1875, couldn't that just be a bureaucratic artifact?
Like a filing error.
Yeah, like, is it possible this is merely an administrative backlog, a case of lost paperwork, rather than a genuine scientific mystery?
What's fascinating here is the sheer rigor behind an IUCN assessment, which pretty much precludes it from being a simple administrative oversight.
Okay.
The IUCN Red List is the global gold standard for tracking the health of animal populations. The Amphibian Specialist Group consists of the absolute foremost herpetologists and conservationists on the planet.
Right. These are the experts.
Right. And when they convene to evaluate a species under the version 3.1 guidelines, they're synthesizing all available global data.
Yeah.
Historical records, field surveys, everything.
They're looking everywhere.
Exactly. So to officially publish a status of data deficient is an active, heavily debated scientific ruling. It is a formal declaration by the world's leading experts that, after an exhaustive review, there is simply not enough empirical information to make any judgment whatsoever about the species' population size, its geographic range trends, or its risk of extinction.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you juxtapose that 1875 discovery date with the 2020 IUCN assessment, the resulting paradox is staggering.
It really is.
Meyer discovers and describes this frog, places it in the taxonomic record, and then 145 years pass.
A century and a half.
We experience the entirety of the 20th century, the advent of global air travel,
Satellite mapping.
the sequencing of the human genome, the creation of the internet. We map the ocean floor, we put rovers on Mars. Yet 145 years later, the top amphibian experts on Earth look at the Jobi tree frog and formally admit total ignorance regarding its ecological status.
It's a profound paradox, and it really highlights the difference between morphological taxonomy and actual ecological understanding.
Right. Naming something versus knowing it.
Precisely. We possess the scientific name, we have the precise taxonomic lineage, the broad geographic origin. But we possess zero knowledge of how the animal actually lives.
Right. Like, what is its diet?
We don't know.
How does it reproduce?
No idea.
What specific microhabitat does it require? What does it sound like? What's its vocalization?
The source provides absolutely no answers to these fundamental biological questions because that data simply has not been collected since the initial physical specimen was documented.
And that gap, that huge void between cataloging and knowing, brings us to what might be the most fascinating, almost meta-level aspect of this whole deep dive.
Yeah, looking at the actual source itself.
Right. Let's analyze the source document itself as a modern artifact. It is a Wikipedia page last edited on October 4, 2025. But when you examine the structure of the page, it is overwhelmingly weighted toward metadata rather than actual biological data.
The architecture of the information here is remarkable, and I think it's highly indicative of how we process knowledge today.
It really is. It boasts this extensive list of taxon identifiers. I mean, the Jobi tree frog is cross-referenced in Wikidata.
AmphibiaWeb.
BioLive, iNaturalist,
The Global Biodiversity Information Facility?
the Encyclopedia of Life, the Open Tree of Life. The digital footprint for this frog is massive. Furthermore, the source notes the article is available in 12 different languages.
Bro.
You can access this exact same lack of information in Egyptian Arabic, Catalan, Spanish, French, Vietnamese, Swedish, and Turkish.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it says something quite profound about the algorithmic nature of the modern information age.
How so?
Well, we have built an incredibly complex, robust digital infrastructure to catalog life on this planet. We deploy bots and algorithms to scrape taxonomic databases and auto-generate translated Wikipedia pages across dozens of languages.
Right, without human intervention.
Exactly. We have global databases that cross-reference each other in milliseconds. The source even highlights a highly specific digital identifier assigned solely to that 2020 IUCN assessment.
Oh, right. It was something like E.T557.
Yeah, EDO T55743A 152545457.
Right. It is this hyper-specific alphanumeric tag pointing to a void. We have neatly filed this creature into precise digital categories. Amphibians of Western New Guinea.
Amphibians described in 1875.
IUCN Red List Data Deficient Species. We have constructed this massive, sophisticated digital mansion. Yet when you open the door to the room labeled Latoria obtuserostris, the room is completely empty. The architecture is holding nothing but its own structural code.
And that digital infrastructure is meticulously maintained, but it cannot generate field data. The algorithms can translate the taxonomy into Catalan or Vietnamese, but they cannot tell us what the frog eats.
Right.
We've created an illusion of omniscience because we can pull up a densely hyperlinked page with specific identifiers and global database cross-references. We assume a level of mastery over the natural world.
That's a great point.
But the Jobi tree frog proves that building a perfect filing cabinet is not the same as understanding the files within it.
And that perfectly frames the final, somewhat poignant detail from our source today.
Yeah, the text at the very bottom.
At the very bottom of the page, beneath that nested taxonomy, beneath the 1875 discovery date, the data deficient status, and that towering list of digital identifiers, there is a very simple sentence.
This Pellegrini article is a stub. You can help Wikipedia by adding missing information.
It's the standard Wikipedia call to action. We've all seen it a million times.
Right. But in this context, it carries immense weight.
It does. It asks the reader, you, the listener, to help by adding missing information. But the reality of the Jobi tree frog dictates that you cannot simply run a deeper internet search to solve this problem.
No, you can't.
The information doesn't exist on the internet because it hasn't been gathered in the physical world. To genuinely answer that call for help, someone cannot just sit at a keyboard. They literally have to put on a pair of boots, mount an expedition to the remote rainforests of West Papua, and rediscover a frog that has eluded human documentation for a century and a half.
It underscores the stark boundary between the digital world and the physical biosphere. We have mapped the genome, we've built the global databases, but we have not mapped the forest floor of West Papua.
Not even close.
The stub is a reminder that our digital tools, no matter how advanced they get, cannot replace the necessity of physical, boots-on-the-ground scientific exploration.
So what does this all mean? You brought us a source today that initially looked like a nearly blank index card.
A name, a remote location, a Victorian-era date.
And a data-deficient label. But by unpacking the implications of those few sparse facts, we didn't just trace the outline of a tiny frog in Indonesia. We mapped the boundaries of human knowledge itself. We examined the massive gap between a naturalist putting a specimen in a jar in 1875 and a global council of experts just throwing their hands up in 2020.
And in a world where we are constantly inundated with massive data sets, predictive algorithms, and the feeling that everything is already known and quantified, the Jobi tree frog serves as a necessary grounding reality check. It proves that the world is not fully mapped. The natural world still holds profound mysteries that are completely independent of our digital databases. The book of life on Earth still contains vast blank pages.
It absolutely pulls you out of the digital ecosystem and reminds you of the wild, undocumented reality still breathing out there in the dark.
This raises an important question, and it is a thought I want to leave you with today.
Yeah.
We have spent this deep dive exploring our incredible automated machinery for cataloging nature.
Hmm.
The algorithms, the cross-references, the 12 languages.
Right.
But what happens when that digital infrastructure outlasts the physical ecosystem it was built to describe?
Oh, wow.
If a creature identified in 1875 has remained unseen and unstudied for 150 years, is it possible our obsession with building these perfect digital taxonomies is giving us a false sense of security?
That we're tracking things that might not even be there anymore.
Exactly. We might be meticulously categorizing, tagging, and cross-referencing ghosts. Are we so focused on perfecting the metadata of the natural world that we are distracted from the reality that these profound unknowns might vanish from the physical world before we ever truly know them?
That is a haunting and vital perspective to end on, the difference between cataloging a species and actually knowing it before it's gone. Thank you so much for exploring the great unknown with us today. Keep asking questions, keep looking closer, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.